All right, so in this video, we're going to talk about the price escalation. So I'm going to go ahead and click add in the top right-hand corner. I've already gone through the opportunity and opened up my DocuSign room. I'm going to click on DocuSign Forms. And then I'm going to click on PAR, Pennsylvania Association. I'm going to type in price, and you'll see that the price escalation addendum has already popped up. I'm going to click here, click add selected. When I open the agreement, now remember it's an addendum to the agreement, it'll have the address up top of the home that the buyer is purchasing, seller info, buyer info. This is the most important part here is number 2. What it's saying is that the buyer is willing to increase their offer so that the net purchase price is blank higher than the net purchase price of a competing offer. So for example, if your buyer is saying, I'm willing to pay $200,000, but I'm willing to pay $1,000 above the highest competing offer, you would put $1,000 in here. And then it says up to a maximum of purchase price of, right? So this gives it a ceiling. So that way it's just not into infinity. If somebody offered $100,000 above asking, right? Your buyer's not committed to that. So then your buyer's going to say, I'm willing to pay $1,000 higher than the competing offer. So that way the net purchase price is $1,000 higher than maximum of purchase price of, and let's just say they're like, I will go up to $220. Oops. DocuSign does not like commas. So now this is saying a maximum purchase price of $220,000 at $1,000 increments. You're going to scroll down here because you have to select, the mortgage contingency is waived. The sale is not contingent upon mortgage financing. So that might be a cash buyer or a buyer that's very well qualified. Then you would check that. If the loan amount has to increase with the purchase price increase, so let's say the highest competing offer was $210,000. Well, the buyer's saying they're willing to pay $1,000 above the highest competing offer, so that would make it $211,000. But they need to get a mortgage to cover the difference, right? Then you would check here the loan amount stated in the mortgage contingency box that's in the agreement of sale. We'll go back to that in a moment. And the loan to value ratio to remain the same. So if the bank says, yep, you're pre-approved for $300,000, but you got to put 20% down, even though they're only going to get $211,000 in this scenario, they still have to put 20% down because that's what their pre-approval said. So you're going to say, hey, I'm going to increase that mortgage contingency loan amount so that the loan to value ratio remains the same. You're going to click that box. Then you have the option of the first blank amount of difference between purchase price and the new purchase price will be paid in cash at settlement. So maybe their offer was for $200,000, but they have an extra $11,000 in cash that they're just going to pay at closing. So that way they don't have to mess with that mortgage contingency box. Then you'll also see the option here within blank days of the execution date of the agreement, buyer will deliver seller a written pre-approval letter from the letter identified in the mortgage contingency paragraph, basically with an amount equal to or greater than the new purchase price. So maybe their pre-approval was only for $200,000, but they know they can go up to $250,000 or $220,000, or in this case, $211,000. They'll put in here so many days of, hey, we're going to get that updated pre-approval letter to you to prove that we can do that. Quite honestly, in this market, I would just make sure you have that pre-approval letter at maximum amount that they're able to do to show that they're a strong buyer in this market. And then you don't have to worry about that, because as a listing agent, if your pre-approval letter says 200, but you're trying to say you could go up to 220, I would be hesitant and would make sure my seller realizes like, hey, we don't know for sure though, right, that they could go that high. So just a pro tip there. And then of course, if an appraisal contingency, if this price escalation is still contingent on it appraising that high, you would select that box box here, and then your buyer would sign and date. If the escalation is accepted, so if there was a higher offer, let's say your offer was 200,000 and one was there for 210, like in my example, the seller then would have to fill in here that the purchase price of the agreement of sale is increased from 200,000 to 211,000 because the buyer said they would pay $1,000 higher than the highest competing offer. The seller has to show you a copy of that offer, okay, as proof. You're not just taking their word for it. And then the seller would sign and date. And then I would save and close. On the agreement of sale, if you are doing a price escalation, you do have to indicate that on the last page of the agreement of sale. I will show you where you indicate that. So I'm in my agreement of sale. We'll scroll down to the last page. And you'll see here that there's extra boxes. So if you were adding an appraisal contingency, you would have to check this box. But in this case, it doesn't say anything about price escalation. So we're going to click a blank box. And then in here, you would just type escalation addendum. And this indicates to the seller and the listing agent and the closing attorney that there is a price escalation addendum that should be included with this agreement of sale. So that way the purchase price doesn't have to be updated on here. It'll reflect on that addendum. And then you save and close. That is your price escalation addendum. If you need help sending for signature, we have a different video for that. Thank you for watching.